Hello and welcome to the mentoringstore.ca podcasts. I'm Dr. Duanita, and with me is Karen Boies, an independent mortgage planner who specializes in helping women going through divorce with their mortgage planning needs. Karen's mission is to help women going through separation and or divorce to achieve their goal of home ownership on their own. Welcome, Karen.
Hi, thank you so much for having me, Dr. Duanita.
Oh, you're very welcome. I'm glad you're here. You know, Karen, one of the things that I really do admire about you and your work is your philosophy on financial empowerment for women. And I'm going to say a quote that I've heard you not only say, but I've seen you write down. This is quoting you. I believe that when a woman has a solid financial foundation, she can much more easily make the tough decisions that are right for her and her family as she moves forward into the next phase of her life. Now, Karen, can you tell us how you came to this wisdom? I really love that philosophy, but how did you get there? How do you know that?
Well, I know it from personal experience. I grew up in a home where my father was an alcoholic, and my parents had 5 kids. And so they struggled. They struggled to raise the kids and provide for us. And when I left home at 18 years old, I walked out the door and I said that I was done with living in that lifestyle, because I knew that my mother certainly had to tolerate a lot of things that maybe she would not have put up with had she had more of a solid financial foundation behind her. And then as time went on, I developed a successful career for myself, and then I got married. I didn't get married until I was 38 years old, and I found myself in a relationship, unfortunately repeating some of the patterns that I had lived with when I was growing up. And so I was thankful that I had learned good money management skills. I had savings. I knew how to take care of myself financially. I had set up our financial home so that he had his own bank account. I had my own bank account, and I managed the bank account for our joint family income, taking care of paying the bills, the mortgage. And so what I knew was that I could evaluate the status of my relationship with my husband and know that it wasn't meeting my needs. And I knew that I could leave because financially I could afford to look after myself. I wasn't, quote, stuck there because I had no option. I couldn't leave because he managed all the money and he therefore had all of the control in the relationship. I could leave and make the right decisions for me because it wasn't working. It wasn't meeting my needs. And financially, I could afford to move on and start a new life over for myself. And that's certainly what I did. So I learned it from experience.
Yes. And really what you're saying is that women in particular do have unique needs in the area of financial self-care as compared to men. And can you elaborate a bit on that? Like, what are the differences for women? What are the unique issues for women in terms of taking care of themselves financially? The ones that you come across when you're working in this field, specifically with women going through divorce.
Okay. Certainly, I work with men and women when it comes to mortgage planning, but specifically in working with women going through divorce. If I'm dealing with a couple who don't have any children, then typically there isn't a significant difference because typically they do maintain their careers and continue to work. But the families that I work with, the women that I work with that have made a conscious choice to stay home and raise their children, certainly financially, they're going to have to reestablish their careers. Maybe they've been working part-time and they need to ramp it up and work full-time, and that may mean, some ongoing education and support. So they're going to rely heavily on their ex-partner, their ex-husband, to support them financially. They're going to rely on that income and make sure that it comes to them so that they can afford to look after their children as well as provide housing. maybe they've put their careers on hold. So they may have worked, but they've not done what they needed to do to pursue the career goal that they wanted for themselves, and therefore they're relying on less financial income, again, now that they're out on their own and they're having to look after the children, rely on the financial support from the spouse. And that financial support, when it comes to qualifying them for a mortgage, there's a variety of lenders out there that I deal with, and they have different policies as to how much of that income they're going to use in qualifying the woman for the mortgage. Of course, economically, I believe that in our society that generally speaking, women are not trained to look after their financial health as well as men are. It's like within our society, you know, men are supposed to be responsible breadwinners and look after the family and therefore have that financial knowledge. And then in some homes, women just leave it to the men to take care of all that. So here they are leaving the home and they haven't paid attention to what's going on. Maybe they haven't had their own credit identity. For example, all of the mortgage, the car loan, the credit cards, they're all under the husband's name and they haven't established their own credit rating. So it's very difficult in some cases for them to get out there and reestablish themselves financially as well as, you know, in the career and starting over in their own home. They need support in all of those areas. Yeah. There are those kind of unique issues, no doubt about it. Now, I know that you created an information book called Divorce in Your Home, 6 Things You Need to Know Before You Sell. And Karen, for the benefit of our listeners, could you briefly outline the 6 things that women going through divorce need to know before selling their home? Okay. I would love to. So we know that you need to make a decision on whether or not you will stay in the house or your spouse will stay in the house, or you need to make a decision on whether or not you're going to leave the family home and start over. And that is going to be a very difficult decision. You're going to need to evaluate whether or not you can afford to buy out your spouse. Again, as I said earlier, there are different financial implications to that, and so you need to look at whether or not you can afford to buy your spouse out and you maintain the home. You need to make sure that if you're getting child support, that you maintain official records of that. I've had a number of experiences where women are being paid cash by the spouse while they're going through the separation agreement process, and then when it comes time for us to prove that they're actually getting the ongoing support from the spouse, then they don't have an official record of it, and that hurts them. They need to put themselves in full control of the mortgage payments as soon as possible. If they're staying in the home, they need to make sure that they take control and ensure that those mortgage payments are being made on time. Unfortunately, when couples are going through a divorce, there's often a fight over the money, and that has a negative impact on the credit rating of both parties. And so for the women, I encourage them, take control of that and make sure that you're getting the money and that you're making sure that the payments are made on time. You need to protect your credit score. Again, your credit score gives you the ability to finance all of your future purchases, not just buying a home, but you want to buy a car, anything, get a credit card. You need to make sure that you're cutting up those credit cards that are in joint name so that you're not held accountable if he doesn't pay the bills on time. And you need to make sure that you're overall just protecting your credit score. And then you need to consider how will you finance your next home. And as I talked earlier, the different lenders have different policies around looking at child support and child tax credits and, the other sources of income that you have besides just what you're doing for work. So those are just some of the areas that you need to look at when making the overall decision around whether or not you're going to stay in a home or whether or not you're going to move on and start a new life with your family in a new home.
Great. That's really helpful. Now, if the listeners wanted to get a copy of your book, where would they go to, Karen?
Okay, well, they could email me. So do you want me to give you my email address now, or are we going to add it at the end?
That would be great. I'll add it at the end, but give it to them now as well. That'd be,
Now. Okay, so that's Karen at mortgagecenterbc.com. They can call me at 604-726-9550. They also have the ability to send me a message by accessing my website at KarenBoies, BOIES.ca.
Okay. And what about your Twitter and Facebook? I know you're active in social media and that you love that medium. How would they connect with you there, Karen?
Okay. On Facebook, I am mortgageforddivorce.KarenBoies.
Boies is spelled B-O-I-E-S, right?
Correct.
Okay. And twitter.com, Karen Boies as well.
Right.
Now, Karen, I really want to thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and your experience with us today. Is there any other words of wisdom that you want to give to women going through divorce who are facing mortgage issues?
Well, absolutely. I think it's most important that you get independent advice. And yes, I'm a mortgage broker and I'm independent, and so I'm going to recommend that, but it's because I believe in it. It's because there are so many options that are there for an individual that they may not know about. Some people think that they need to rely just on their bank and that their bank will take care of them. I haven't seen that. I have dealt with women who went direct to their bank and they were discouraged after their meeting with the bank advisor, and yet we sat down and evaluated their strategy. In some cases, they didn't have one, so I worked with them to ensure that they had an overall strategy and approach. And so I highly recommend that, call me. If not me, then, have a friend recommend them to an independent mortgage broker so that they can ensure that they have a strategy and that they're moving forward from that stance as opposed to simply going on emotion.
Right. And I guess it would be important, because of the issues, there are some specific things that mortgage brokers and or bankers need to know about women going through divorce, about their reality, things like child support and, child tax credits, et cetera. So it probably isn't just going to anyone, but somebody who actually really does know the ins and outs about what qualifies and what doesn't and what kind of papers you need as verification, et cetera. It's probably wise to really go to somebody who specializes in divorce.
Absolutely. I, again, come up with different scenarios all the time because everybody's financial situation is different and their divorce process is different and hits little glitches along the road. An example was that last fall I was working with a woman. She had come to me like a year in advance, and we were going down the path that she was going to move out of the house. And then finally, just in a brief conversation that we had, I brought up, had you considered speaking to your parents about them co-signing for you so that you could stay in the house? Because she had been living in the house and she was making the mortgage payments and she was occasionally getting support from her husband. And she was going through the process of getting a court order to ensure that he was going to continue to pay. And so she went and she spoke to her dad, and he was full-time employed. Their home was free and clear, and he was more than happy to co-sign for her. She really wanted to stay in the home. That's where the children had grown up. That's where they were going to school. They were doing their sports activities. Her job was just down the street. She could walk to it. I mean, her whole community was there. She had good, valid reasons why she wanted to stay there. But she was going down the path of eventually going to have to sell the house and move on, and she was dealing with me to get qualified for a mortgage to buy something new while she was going to take the equity when they sold the home. In the end, Mom and Dad co-signed for the loan, and a year, as long as she continued to make her payments for 1 year without any problems, then the bank will release her parents as co-signers. At the end of the day, she was very happy with that outcome. So, it worked for her.
Right, right. And that's the great thing about people working with you is you've seen so many people go down the path that you know all the various options, and sometimes you can just point out something that would be obvious, but not obvious to somebody who's in the situation.
Well, exactly. And again, if you just walk into the bank, tell them your direct story, I think they don't really have a vested interest in looking at what all of the possible options are, things for you to consider. And then, there are times that people just call me, women call me, we have a conversation, review all the different options, and at the end of the day, they now have a strategy that they can work with, and they can take that into consideration when they're going into the negotiations in advance.
Right.
They know, like we sit down and we look at it and we say, if this scenario works, that you get what you think you're going to get at the end of the day when it comes to ongoing financial support, for example, from your ex-husband for child support, say for your alimony support. We can look at it and we can say, this is what you're going to qualify for a mortgage. Can you realistically see yourself continuing to make that size of a mortgage payment? Like, is that the lifestyle that you envision for yourself? And if that works for the woman, great. If not, then we can develop a strategy that says, look, I know you want to stay in the house, but at the end of the day, when you look at what your overall goals and dreams and hopes of your brand new life as a single woman again, you might be better off to downsize, buy yourself a townhouse and move there and continue and create a brand new life for yourself. And then this one will allow you to make the mortgage payments and give you the opportunity to pursue those other things that you've maybe put on hold before. So I'll be honest, I do look at and try to establish a relationship with these women to inspire them to look beyond what's happening for them right now, Maybe they didn't make the decision to end the divorce. Maybe their partner did, and they're not really happy about it. But I do try to encourage and inspire them to look beyond it and look at some of the other things that they want to achieve for themselves. And again, taking this whole financial picture and putting it into that perspective. So.
Yeah, because your job would be so much more than just simply, the numbers and finding ways to help them. Because, in these situations, first of all, you're probably dealing with people where there's tons of emotions running through, grief, shock, loss, as well as, guiding them through to help them see through all of that immediate emotion to what is it that they do want in their new life. And to make that start with a new home on the path that can connect up with that vision.
Absolutely. I'm dealing with a woman right now who's going through a divorce, and her husband, she found out that he was doing cocaine. And, she had been working hard for the last 4 years in her career, was making money, and it seemed like he never, ever had any money. She was giving him money all the time and had no idea what was going on. Eventually, she found out that he was doing cocaine, and so the relationship ended, and now they're going through the divorce process of figuring out who gets which home. They own a home. They own 2 homes together. And, there are moments when her and I have conversations where it's really clear that she's angry and this is about winning. And, honestly, I do try to come back to the original conversation that we had and remind her what she talked about, that there were so many things that she had dreamed of doing in her life, and she wasn't doing it in her marriage under those circumstances, and reminding her that she can fight about this and the lawyers will end up with the money. And so at the end, she'll win, but she'll lose. And is that what she really wants for her future? And she thanks me for bringing her back down and reminding her that, while she is going through an emotional process right now, finances, money is involved. And hasn't she already given him enough of her money? Isn't it time just to, work this out and be clear on what her goals are, what her strategy is, what does she want to achieve, and move forward and stop fighting the battle about, yes, there is a battle, there is anger, there is pain, but deal with it and don't keep throwing all the money at the lawyers. Leave some for her so that she can move forward and pursue that goal, that dream that she wanted. So,
no, go ahead. It's all about
that solid financial plan, and then move forward and make those decisions that help them achieve their goal, their dream that they sat at home and thought, that what they really wanted for themselves, or in that time when they're just sitting alone, really, what do they want? What kind of life do they want? Like, it's an opportunity to learn from this experience and move forward and make it better for themselves. And I try to encourage them to do that.
Yeah. Wow, Karen, you have to be part mortgage broker, part guide, really serious life guide, just helping them to stay on track and keep taking the high road so that they can get through it as smoothly and easily as possible toward their goals of a better life, really.
Absolutely. Inspiring them just like I would my friends.
Yeah. Just like you would your girlfriends.
Exactly. Just like I would with my girlfriends.
So Karen Boies, thank you so much for sharing with us today and inspiring us and inspiring all of our listeners who might be going through a tough time right now to know that there is help out there and that there are people out there specializing to help you make choices around mortgage and home that can really put you on path to a higher vision and to your new life as a single woman. Thank you very much, Karen, for being with us today.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. I love having the opportunity to share my vision with other women and encourage and inspire them to live their authentic life. Absolutely.
Well, and I'm very grateful that there are women out there like you who take the interest to help people, and especially women in that kind of time of need, because it's a very scary situation when you have a marriage and your life is all of a sudden shifting. Now remember, any of you out there who are interested in connecting with Karen and learning more about her and about the issue of mortgages through divorce, you can find Karen online at www.karenboies.ca. And again, Boies is spelled B-O-I-E-S. You can also reach her through Twitter, twitter.com/Karen Boies, and Facebook, mortgagefordivorce.KarenBoies. As well, feel free to email her at karen@mortgagecenterbc.com. Thank you all for listening today, and may your paths through divorce and life change situations be smooth and easy, and may you find those professionals who are meant in the world to help you. Bye for now. This is Dr. D. Enjoy.